we continue our conversation about how to move forward in faith amid grief and tragedy in Texas, as I'm joined now by a licensed professional Catholic counselor. Anthony Flores is a clinician at Divine Mercy University, a Catholic graduate school of psychology and counseling. He is a clinical traumatologist and has traveled to respond to traumatized persons in the immediate aftermath of disasters, including 2017's Hurricane Maria and the Chico, California wildfires. Anthony, thank you so much for being here, because there is a lot to process. There's a lot of trauma surrounding this story, and it's hitting different people at different levels. You have the survivors, you have victims' families, and you have the everyday American who's consuming this news right now. So I want to first address those young campers who survived the floods in Texas. If you were there on the ground in Texas, what might you expect to see in meeting with these young survivors?
That's a good question. Well, first of all, I want to thank you for having me here. It's an honor. It's a tragedy that we have to be talking about these things right now, though. But they're on the ground, right? They're in Texas. Those who are struggling through this disaster. There's a lot to contend with, a lot of grief, a lot of trauma as well. And so because of that, there's going to be a lot of different reactions that people are having. And there's a lot of overlap between adults and children in terms of how they are going to be responding to this trauma. For the children in particular, though, is we really want to wrap our arms around them, right, and protect them as much as we can. And so what we want to be looking for with them are they having more nightmares? Are they having more regressive type of behaviors, thumb sucking, bedwetting, things like that? They can exhibit anxiety and fear in different ways than us adults. They don't quite have the language to express things that we do, and so that can look like stomach aches, headaches, things like that.
That absolutely makes sense about how it's processed differently at different ages. And many of these young campers, they lost a friend in these floods. And so with that, they're likely going to be asking their parents some big questions. What happened to my friend? Is my friend in heaven? What kind of guidance do you want to give parents on how to even begin navigating those types of questions amid loss?
Sure, yeah. That's such a good question, too. A very common one as well. And our general guidance is that if a child is old enough to be asking the question, whatever the question might be, then they're old enough to receive an age-appropriate response. And it can be a bit difficult to know how to navigate that. And so as parents, again, we want to protect our children, right? But in situations like this, we also want to be honest as much as we can according to their age. And so we want to use concrete language. We want to be straightforward with them and to say things, that are real. Your friend, their body has stopped working, for example, and they've died. We want to avoid euphemisms, like they've passed on or that they're asleep. They need to have that honesty from us.
Age-appropriate language that a parent only knows with their child.
Right,
likely.
right.
Tell me about vicarious trauma. What is that, and who might experience that in this case?
So many. First responders, clergy, therapists who are there, parents, community members, anyone can be experiencing that vicarious trauma. And what we mean by vicarious trauma is maybe I haven't experienced it myself directly, but I know of somebody close to me who did, or I am seeing it on TV, or I'm seeing it, the aftermath of what has happened. And so what we mean by that is if I'm continually taking in all of this trauma that I'm seeing or hearing from others, then I can begin to experience trauma reactions myself as well. And that can even lead into experiences of PTSD.
That's really good for many people to be mindful of. Anthony, what happened at Camp Mystic really is a parent's nightmare. And it's still summer camp season right now. You still have parents preparing to drop off their little kid at a sleepaway summer camp. Now, some parents might be second guessing that decision and hesitating to do so. What guidance do you have for those parents?
Yeah, well, it's a good question too. As a parent myself, these are things that we want to be aware of. So we want to exercise prudence. We want to be vigilant in, taking care of our children and, what we're allowing them to experience. I think there's a line that we have to be careful of between being vigilant and being hypervigilant. We want to be vigilant all of the time, but hypervigilance can really take us into a place of beginning to live out of fear rather than the reality of things, or rather than placing trust in God. It's tough. It really depends on what a parent is comfortable with, really.
But not to live in that fear and not to stay there.
Right, exactly.
Anthony, when there is such a tragedy like this one, people might have a crisis of faith and be asking why God did this happen. As a Catholic counselor specifically, what do you want to say to people who are really grappling with God amid such tragedy?
Sure. Well, I want them to know that that's such a normal experience. I mean, it really is. To have something so abnormal and devastating occur like that, it really shakes up one's understanding of reality. And that's essentially what trauma is. And so in the aftermath of trauma, reality is kind of broken, and sometimes that is our perception of God. And so, logically, we can understand maybe what our church teaches us, right? That God allows bad things like this to occur, and he can bring out a greater good. Logically, we might be able to understand that. But affectively, in the heart, that might be a more difficult thing to really understand. And so I think it's in that way we really have to pour ourselves out to God and wrestle with him in a sense, and let him know what we're feeling.
That's a great reminder. And it really has been gutting this past week to be reading all the details and all the heartbreaking stories that have come out of this Texas flood. How do we as Catholics, how do we consume the news and pray and have empathy for those who were directly impacted by these floods, but do it in a way to protect against distress and to protect our own heart and mind?
Sure. Yeah. Well, we have to take it very cautiously as well. We have to exercise our prudence in that. It's good to be informed. We need to know what's going on in the world. And at the same time, we need to have an understanding of how we're experiencing what we're taking in. So, be informed, right? But there comes a point where maybe you have to start asking, well, what is this doing for me as I continue to read these stories? I want to be compassionate and prayerful and really pour myself out in that way, but I also have to take care of myself as well in that regard.
You have to know yourself.
Yes.
It sounds like, when it comes to consuming all this news and all the headlines.
Absolutely.
Anthony, there's a lot more I could speak to you about, but I'm so grateful for your time and for your guidance with us this week in particular. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
If you feel compelled to help Texas flood victims as they try to recover from last weekend's devastation, contact Catholic Charities of the Archdiocese of San Antonio or Catholic Charities of Central Texas. Their information is on the screen. Both organizations have taken on 7 different Central Texas counties each and will direct help to where it is most needed.